They laughed when I pitched my idea. My boss smirked, said, "We don't pay you to dream, kid." A year later, that same man was on the news, begging for investors as his company collapsed. And the name flashing across every ad that replaced his? Mine. If you've ever been underestimated, told you're not good enough, or watched someone steal credit for your ideas, this story is for you. Hit that subscribe button because this isn't just a story of revenge. It's the story of how betrayal built an empire. I used to believe that hard work was enough, that if you showed up early, stayed late, and gave everything to your job, people would see your value. That belief died the day I met Ethan Drake, the man who called himself my mentor. I was 26, a mid-level software engineer at Ether Dynamics, a mid-sized tech firm known for flashy pitches and almost finished products. The kind of company that looked amazing on LinkedIn but hollow from the inside. Ethan was the director of product development, sharp suits, shark smile, the type who could make investors feel safe while he bled his team dry. He liked me at first, or at least he liked how much I worked. I was the guy who fixed code at 2 a.m. who never said no. When he said jump, I was already in the air. Then came the idea. My idea. We were building a logistics platform for mid-sized retailers, optimizing deliveries and inventory management. But I saw a bigger problem. The small vendors, the mom-and-pop shops struggling to get online, drowning in delivery costs. I spent weeks outside work hours sketching a new algorithm, one that used predictive routing to cut their costs by nearly 40%. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. I tested it with my own laptop with dummy data. It was clean, fast, scalable. When I showed it to Ethan, he smiled. Not the great job kind of smile, the I see a way to use you kind. He said, "Impressive work. Really? But this isn't the direction we're going. Leave it with me, I'll show it to the execs when the time's right." I should have known. When a shark smiles, it's not gratitude, it's hunger. Weeks passed. Silence. Then one Friday, during our all-hands meeting, Ethan unveiled a new company project. He called it PathStream. He described the algorithm, my algorithm, down to the same examples ID used. And when the applause came, he took a deep bow and said, "Couldn't have done it without my amazing team." No mention of me. My coworkers clapped. I smiled like it didn't burn. But inside, I was shaking. I didn't just feel betrayed. I felt erased. That night, I sat in my car after work for hours. The city lights blurred through the windshield. I kept asking myself, do I fight back? Do I quit? And then Ethan walked out of the building, saw me sitting there, and smirked. He leaned down, tapped on my window, and said, "Don't take it so personally, kid. That's just how business works. Ideas are cheap, execution is what counts." He walked away laughing. Something in me broke that night. But something else was born too, quiet, patient, sharper than anger. It was revenge. And I knew exactly how it would start. I didn't quit, not yet. Quitting would have been too easy, too clean. I stayed, smiled in meetings, helped polish PathStream while Ethan presented it as his genius brainchild. Every line of code I wrote was a blade sharpening in silence. Behind the scenes, I kept refining the algorithm, my version, the real one. The version that didn't just save small vendors money, it learned from market patterns. A self-optimizing delivery AI that predicted demand, pricing, and route changes days ahead. At work, Ethan's version floundered, couldn't handle real-world scaling. But instead of admitting it, he blamed the engineers, including me. "Maybe if you all put in half the effort I do," he said in one meeting, "we wouldn't be behind schedule." He loved public humiliation. He once made a junior developer cry just because her code formatting wasn't his style. I started documenting everything. Every email, every Slack message, every line of code ID written for the original project. I made backups, timestamped logs, offsite copies. Not for lawsuits, for insurance. Then, one night, almost 6 months later, I got the email that pushed me past the edge. Subject line, restructuring notice. Half the team was being laid off, including me. Ethan didn't even deliver it himself. HR did. When I went to collect my things, he stopped by my desk, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, "You'll thank me someday. You're not built for this world." I smiled. For real this time. 'cause I already knew he was right. I wasn't built for his world. I was building my own. The next year was hell. No job, no funding, just me, my laptop, and the weight of every sneer Ethan ever gave me. I sold my car, moved into a studio apartment that smelled like mold and regret. Days blurred, nights stretched into code. Sometimes I'd pass out at my desk, wake up with lines of code etched into my dreams. But the algorithm grew, smarter, faster. I named it RouteMind, a system that didn't just route trucks, it predicted supply chain shocks. When I finally built the MVP, I pitched it to small logistics startups. They all said the same thing: brilliant tech, but no one knows you. Still, one local courier service, barely surviving, gave me a chance. They let me integrate RouteMind into their system. Within 3 months, their costs dropped 35% and delivery times improved 28%. Then word spread, slowly, quietly, like fire creeping under dry wood. Investors started calling. I built a small team, 3 engineers, 1 marketer, 1 operations manager. All of them people Ethan had laid off. We worked out of an old garage with a cracked window and peeling paint. But inside there was magic. And one night, when we hit our first $100,000 in revenue, I looked at that old Ether Dynamics mug still sitting on my desk. I whispered, "Your turn, Ethan. Success, I learned, doesn't arrive with applause. It sneaks in quietly, through sleepless nights, caffeine-stained fingers, and code that finally runs without crashing." Within a year, RouteMind wasn't just a functioning product, it was a monster. Small courier companies across 3 states were using it. Every client referred to more. Our dashboard map lit up with glowing pins of active users like stars spreading across a digital sky. But my real goal wasn't profit. It was poetic symmetry. Ether Dynamics, the company that stole my idea, was preparing to launch PathStream 2.0. And Ethan Drake was still parading as the visionary genius behind it. I started tracking them. Public data, job listings, I started tracking them. Public data, job listings, investor calls. Their biggest selling point? Predictive logistics routing, the very feature my RouteMind had already perfected. They were betting everything on a feature ID invented. And this time, they were late. The perfect setup for revenge isn't rage. It's timing. Building the trap. Step 1, visibility. I needed RouteMind to be everywhere Ether looked. We started attending logistics expos, tech conferences, startup showcases, small, low-budget events where the big players never bothered to show up. My co-founder Mira, a marketing genius, suggested a bold move. Make RouteMind's pitch personal. Talk about why you built it, she said, not what it does. So I did. I stood on stages no one cared about, telling the story of a world where small businesses didn't have to bleed money to survive in an algorithmic market. People connected with that. Within months, RouteMind had a reputation not as a company, but as a movement. We got invited to Next Wave Logistics Summit, the same stage Ethan had bragged on for years. He'll never forget the moment I saw our names on the speakers list. Ether Dynamics keynote address, the future of predictive delivery. RouteMind breakout session. The future is already here. He was the future. I was the present. The ghost inside the machine. A week before the event, something wild happened. One of my ex-coworkers from Ether, Jenna, reached out on LinkedIn. She'd been fired after Ethan blamed her for a system crash that wasn't her fault. "I don't know if you care," she wrote, "but PathStream 2.0 is a disaster. They're using your old architecture. It's unstable and they don't even realize it." She sent me snippets of their public-facing API calls, enough to see the cracks. Ethan hadn't just stolen my idea, had stolen my unfinished code. It was poetic. The man who mocked me for dreaming was now building his empire on top of a time bomb. I didn't need to sabotage him. I just needed to wait. The conference hall buzzed with the kind of artificial excitement that only tech people could fake. Neon lights, free swag, the smell of burnt espresso and ambition. Ether's booth was front and center, sleek, expensive, their logo glowing on a digital wall. Ethan was there in his signature navy suit, surrounded by PR people and cameras. I set up our small RouteMind booth across the aisle. Wooden backdrop, simple signage, a single line on our banner. Efficiency that predicts itself. Ethan noticed me. His smirk faltered for a split second, then returned sharper. He walked over, pretending to be casual. "Well, if it isn't my old protege," he said. "Didn't realize they were letting garage projects in this year." I smiled. "They said they wanted innovation. Thought ID bring some." He laughed, but there was something behind his eyes, something uncertain. Our breakout session came after his keynote. He went first, flashing slides of charts and graphs that didn't mean much. When he showed a demo of PathStream's predictive engine, the system lagged. The screen froze for 2 full seconds before catching up. The audience shifted uncomfortably. He brushed it off. "Minor glitch," he said, voice too tight. Then it was our turn. We ran a live simulation, RouteMind optimizing deliveries for 500 nodes in real time. It was fast, seamless, elegant. People actually gasped when they saw the time savings. When the applause came, I caught Ethan watching from the side of the room. His jaw was clenched so tight I could almost hear it grind. The fall begins. Within weeks, RouteMind landed partnerships with 3 logistics firms Ether had been courting. Investors started calling us the real innovators. Ether's product crashed publicly 2 months later. Critical system failure during a client's holiday rush. Someone leaked an internal email thread showing Ethan had ignored multiple warnings from his engineers. That leak? Jenna. And yes, I knew about it. The headlines were brutal. Ether Dynamics flagship platform collapses after faulty predictive rollout. Was PathStream built on stolen code? Ethan's name trended for all the wrong reasons. I didn't say a word, didn't gloat, didn't post. I just watched, quietly, as the empire he built on lies began to sink. Would you like me to continue with part 4, the execution VE fallout, where Ethan's company collapses completely, he tries to come after the protagonist legally, and the final confrontation happens with a powerful emotional ending? Ethan wasn't the kind of man who accepted defeat quietly. When Ether Dynamics started collapsing, he did what all arrogant men do. He looked for someone to blame. And predictably, that someone was me. The counterattack. It started with a cease and desist letter. A thick white envelope landed on my desk one rainy Tuesday morning, marked with Ether Dynamics legal department. Inside was a formal accusation of intellectual property theft. They claimed I had stolen proprietary algorithms while working at Ether. The irony nearly made me laugh out loud. ID documented everything. Every timestamp, every email, every commit ID from my original repository. Still, reading those words, intentional misappropriation, made something twist in my chest. For a moment, that old fear returned. The kid who used to doubt himself, who believed people like Ethan got to decide what success looked like. Then I looked up at the office around me. The team ID built, the product WED made, the name RouteMind glowing on the wall. No, this wasn't fear anymore. This was war, the courtroom duel. Ether filed a lawsuit within weeks. They expected me to fold, to settle, to pay, to disappear quietly. But I didn't build RouteMind to survive. I built it to win. My lawyer, an old friend named Priya, sat me down and said, "They're bluffing. Their evidence is thin. If you fight, we can expose everything they did, but it won't be quick." "Good," I said. "Make it loud." The hearings stretched for months. Ethan strutted into court every time in his tailored suits, all charm and confidence. He told the judge that I was a disgruntled ex-employee who'd twisted his mentorship into resentment. When my turn came, I spoke softly but clearly. "I didn't steal his idea," I said. "He stole mine, and I can prove it." We presented the logs, the early prototype files, all dated before Ether's project even existed. The witness statements from my former coworkers, the investor communications that showed ID built RouteMind independently. Piece by piece, the illusion cracked. During the final hearing, Priya played an audio clip ID saved from years ago, one ID almost forgotten about. It was Ethan's voice, laughing as he said, "Don't take it so personally, kid. Ideas are cheap. Execution is what counts." You could hear the arrogance dripping from every syllable. When the clip ended, the courtroom was silent. Even the judge looked disgusted. Ether's case collapsed. We didn't just win. The court ordered them to pay damages and issue a formal apology. Ethan didn't show up for the verdict. The fall of a tyrant. 2 weeks later, Ether Dynamics filed for bankruptcy. Investors pulled out. Their stock tanked to pennies. Ethan tried to start a new consulting firm, but no one wanted to touch his name. The internet doesn't forget, and his reputation was radioactive. Meanwhile, RouteMind exploded. We went global: Europe, Asia, Latin America. Logistics companies flocked to us. Within a year, we hit $100 million in valuation. Journalists loved the story, the underdog who turned betrayal into brilliance. They asked me to comment on Ether's collapse, but I always said the same thing. I just built what I believed in. No gloating, no direct attacks, just quiet victory. But one night, long after the interviews and celebrations, I got a message. It was from Ethan. A single line. "You happy now?" I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back, "No, just free." And I blocked him. The full circle. A few months later, I returned to the same conference hall where everything had started. The one where Ethan had laughed at me across the aisle. This time, I was the keynote speaker. As I stood on that stage, looking out at hundreds of people, founders, engineers, dreamers, I realized something. My revenge had never really been about destroying him. It was about reclaiming myself. Every betrayal, every insult, every night alone coding in the dark. It all built me into something he could never understand. When the applause faded, a reporter asked me backstage, "What does it feel like to have crushed the company that wronged you?" I smiled. "It feels like closure," I said, "and maybe a little justice." Looking back now, I don't see Ethan's face when I think of my revenge. I see my team, the people who believed when no one else did. I see every small business that survived because RouteMind made their deliveries possible. I see the younger version of me, sitting in that car outside the office, fists clenched, wondering if I'd ever be good enough. He'd never believe how far we came. Sometimes revenge isn't fire or fury. Sometimes it's success so loud it drowns out the laughter that once haunted you. And sometimes, the silence, because the person who tried to bury you is still digging for a way out, while you've already built an empire on top of the ground they gave you. If you've ever had someone steal your idea, your dream, or your credit, remember this. They can take your work, but not your worth. Don't fight them with anger. Build something they can't ignore. If this story hit home, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. What would your revenge look like if you built it from scratch? Because sometimes the best revenge is building an empire they can never touch.